Um, there are two main parenting styles that everybody kind of thinks of, and that is being really authoritarian. So when you think of an authoritarian parent, what comes to mind? Yep, strict, sometimes mean, right? What do you think the child is getting, the teen is getting from this kind of interaction? Yep, all of the above. Sometimes they may just retreat, which is always my fear with my kids, that they're going to retreat and have like self-doubt, self-esteem, right? Gets lowered because they're not, all of those things that we want for our kids, those decision-making, the honesty, all the things that we talked about. When you're an authoritarian parent, you're not giving your child that opportunity to grow into any of that. They don't get a chance to make their choices. So they may go, you know what, I'm going to go make my own choices. I'm going to go take control where I can, which is far away from you. So then the other side of that very authoritarian approach to parenting is that super permissive parenting. So what do you think that looks like? Yep. And what do you think the child is kind of getting from that? When you have a parent who's, sure, do whatever you want. Like, I'm good. What kind of child do you think gets like, what does that child grow up to be? Some of the other effects, I don't know if that's the right word, of permissive is that the potential for your child, for your teen to grow up and kind of be spoiled or entitled. I was never told what I could or couldn't do, so I can and do anything I want, right? And that's what I deserve. Mom, I don't like what you have for breakfast. Go get me something else. Okay, I'll go get you something else, right? And then the teen isn't making any choices. They're not learning to live within boundaries. They're not learning to live with other people. They're just going, well, everything's for me and I'm going to get everything I want. And then is that what we want our children to be, our teens to grow into when they become adults? We don't want to have the cast of The Office in our house. I certainly do not want the cast of The Office in our house. Right. So think about that. Okay. So the third, so how many of you guys see like permissive parenting as part of your regime sometimes? I really try hard not to do this one, but sometimes it, it's just like, just go when my daughter has like her anxiety going off and I want her to go to bed at a decent hour and she's just like, no, I have to get this done. I'll just be like, you know what? Hands off, do whatever you want. I'm walking away from it because I'm frustrated. Now I don't like, just sure, whatever. And she'll go to bed at 2:00 in the morning. But any way that we can keep the communication and the connection with our children and keep that balance between the authoritarian and the permissive parenting helps us have that better relationship with our teens, while giving them, and I'm just going to kind of put this back, just remind you guys of some of the characteristics and the life skills that you said that you wanted for your kids, right? Which is like honesty and independence, right? Cleaning their space, empathy, compassion, motivation. And when we think about these things, how we parent them affects what they walk away with, right? So if we're too permissive, they're not going to have an opportunity to find that. If we're too permissive, right? They're not going to have an opportunity to find that empathy or to find, that motivation because they don't need to, right? They don't have to kind of work on their common sense or seeing things from anybody else's perspective or having the self-esteem. And when we're being too authoritarian, it's the same kind of thing. Like, they don't have to learn how to respect others. We're not necessarily teaching them that. We're not modeling that behavior for them because we're just telling them what to do without having that like kind and firm approach of, I know you want to do this, but you can't. Right? And that concept comes from, it's called authoritative, not authoritarian, but it is kind and firm. I know you want to stay up all night and you have to put the books away now, right? I love you and you can't go out anymore, right? It's that sort of conversation that allows our children, our teens, to be open enough to continue to talk to us, to learn all of those things that we want them to be, that empathy and that kindness and, making really good choices, planning, being optimistic. And these are all the things that you guys came up with that you wanted for your children, for your teens, in order for them to grow up into the people that we want them to be. So when we're looking at this authoritative approach, we're taking their feelings into consideration. And when we do that, we're modeling for them that they need to be taking people's feelings into consideration. And we can focus on preventing the behavior as opposed to telling them what to do and what not to do. Because when they are teens, remember, they need to be making their own decisions at this point. And so if we take that opportunity away from them, then they're not going to know how to do it now. And they're certainly not going to know how to do it as they get older, when the decisions become bigger, more impactful, right? Maybe even scarier and more life-changing. I would rather my kids make as many mistakes as they can now while I'm still around to catch them or to be here when or if it goes wrong, right? So that I can talk to them about like what worked and what didn't work. Then, 5 years down the line, my kid's graduated from college at that point and can't make a decision for himself because I haven't given him that opportunity. So kids that usually are brought up in this like kind and firm, authoritative, right? They're less depressed. They have a higher self-esteem and a greater life satisfaction because they're able to grow into the people that they want to grow into. And so I call these courageous parenting workshops for a reason, because we have to be courageous enough. In my world, I want to be courageous enough that my kids can come and tell me anything. And we have a saying in our house, I love you always, no matter what. There's nothing you can do that's going to make me stop loving you. I will love you always, no matter what. So you can come and tell me anything, and it'll be okay. We as parents need to kind of figure out like what parent we want to be. Do we want to be like, I personally want to be the person that my kids will come to and tell everything. Like, that's the person that I want to be. Not every parent wants to be that way, and that's totally fine. Figure out the parent that you want to be. Both of my kids are in therapy because they have said, we can't tell you everything. That's fine too. You don't have to tell me everything. I just want you to know that you can if you want to. So if you need to go talk to somebody else, and my son tells his therapist things that he doesn't tell me, and my daughter tells her therapist things that she doesn't tell me, and that is fine, right? But I never want them to look at me and go, I can't tell you because you're going to get mad or you're going to get scared. In our house, we look for the solutions, okay? So that's the problem. We now know what the problem is, and we could look at the problem and know what it is. Now, how do we move forward? How do we solve it? And how do we do it together? You're a teenager. Like, I don't need to tell you everything. I don't want to tell you everything. How do we solve it together? So, okay, you made a bad decision. How do we move forward? And I'm not the only one who's coming up with suggestions, because remember, our teens need to have their own independence. They need to be their own person. They need to be part of the solution so that they know how to make those decisions and be part of the solution as they get older. So together, how do we go? And it's not easy. And I just want to say that just talking to your kid about drugs or sex or porn or sexual identity or whatever isn't going to change any of it, right? It may, but if your kid wants to go out and do drugs, you being open and honest might not stop them from going out and doing drugs, but it might give them an arena to come and talk to you when something goes wrong. Even to this day, my kids have a code with me and my husband that if they text us a specific thing, we know to go get them immediately. Mm-hmm. Right? So, I mean, they're 15, they're going to be 16 and 18 next month. But if they text us the specific thing, we know they are in trouble. We get in our cars because we have Life 360 on them, and we go find them and save them because they're in trouble or they're in a situation that they don't know how to get themselves out of, or we call or whatever. So having them, giving them that comfort, right? But I think you're doing all the right things of letting them know, even at a young age, especially at a young age, that it's okay to tell mommy everything, right? And understand that they still might not. Right. Like you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Like we can do everything that we can for our kids, mm-hmm. and they are still going to have to make the decisions. And I'm a big proponent of mistakes because everybody makes them, right? And it's just how you deal with them afterwards. But whatever the situation was, when you make a mistake, like you're going to have to learn from it. That's how you're going to grow. And if they can grow with us where they're safest, then that's what we want. That's what we want for them. We want to be those people. And then that teaches them, like we're setting up a legacy, right? Then they are learning that this is how to parent. And so you're helping not only your kids, but you're helping your grandkids. Sometimes it's just, having that conversation of, you're thinking about doing something. Have you thought through all of that? Mm-hmm. Jane Nelson, one of the founders of Positive Discipline, tells the story of, her daughter was going to a party and her daughter said to her, like, I'm probably going to go get drunk tonight, And so Lynn just said, all right, well, there's nothing I can, is there anything I can do to make you not get drunk? No, I'm probably I'm going to go. All of my friends have said they're going to get drunk. I'm going to go try alcohol and I'm going to get drunk. Okay. So let's just talk about what that decision looks like, right? What's the potential of you getting drunk and passing out? Are you with people who are going to take care of you? How are you going to get home? How am I going to know that you're safe? How are you going to know that you're safe? Let's just talk about it. And in the end, her daughter went, had a little bit of alcohol and did not get drunk because all of those other potential consequences, like passing out and, not knowing how to get home and not being able to take care of it, all of that was scary enough for her to go, I'm not going to do any of it. Mm-hmm. But it was great that the conversation was able to be had before. Now, if the conversation happened after, okay, then there's the next time that gets avoided. This time was the mistake and you learn from it, and then you avoid the situation next time. But again, you got to, we as parents have to open up that door. We have to figure out how to open up that door for our kids. Hey, these are some of the things that you're going to be coming across at some point, mm-hmm. And it's natural and it's normal and everyone's going to be going through it. And you can come and talk to us about it if you need to.
Right.